Well, how is everyone today? I'm doing relatively well, but I did realize something the other day. Back whenever the 2021s started rolling in from Giant, the very first bike that we got in that was a 2021 was the Fathom 1 in a 27.5. I did my typical unboxing first look style video on that. I will leave a link in one of these corners if you have not watched that, but since then I have seen my fair share of Fathom 2s come through the bike shop, and someone brought it to my attention the other day that I've never actually done a proper unboxing or first look at that bike. I thought instead of actually just doing this unboxing video, since I don't actually have one in a box now, I figured why not compare the two. I think this is a good video to do. Instead of just constantly doing unboxings, that kind of stuff, I want to start comparing some of these closer price point bikes. We are going to be weighing the bike, but first, let's roll the intro. So first things first, the footage of the Fathom 1 that I got a while ago is in fact a 27.5 version, but the spec is identical. The Fathom 2 we are going over today is 29, so just keep that in mind. The only reason I really bring that up is so, I guess just to be honest about it, so I don't have a Fathom 2 and a Fathom 1 in the same wheel size to do a compare and contrast, but the spec's the same. So the footage that I'm going to be showing you of the Fathom 1 is going to be a 27.5 inch bike. Price point is the same between the Fathom 29 versus 27.5. But first things first, I want to introduce you guys to the Fathom 2 since I have not done that yet. I think that this bike is a beautiful bike. One is called Trekking Green, the other one is Blue Ashes. I personally prefer the Blue Ashes color. This bike looks beautiful. I love the little subtle stuff that they put at the back of the bike. It's just got a more, I don't know, it's got a little bit more flair. It's got the fade going on, but I do think Giant tends to do one good color and then one safe color. The Trekking Green is a very safe color. It looks good. I'm not knocking it whatsoever. It's very plain, but I do enjoy a good plain colorway. All one color, a little splash of Giant on there. The only reason I like that is because you can kind of customize your own look with a bike like that. You can put pink grips and pink pedals on it and pink wheels. You know, like the frame doesn't have to be the centerpiece of your bike if you get a more plain colorway, if that's making any sense. It is the Alux SL grade aluminum. That is the nicest aluminum that Giant makes. It is also coming with the Giant Crest 34 RCL 130 millimeter boost fork. So this is a Giant brand fork. I have seen nothing negative about this fork. It is nothing fancy. It is an air fork, so you can set it up for your body weight. So it is nice to have that. My one thing to knock on the Giant Crest forks, Giant is a big enough company, I hope this wouldn't happen, but they're only doing this Crest line of fork. They're not doing a super high-end fork. They're not trying to really compete with RockShox or Fox for that matter. And I would be afraid that if you wanted to keep this bike for 6 or 7 years, that Giant may not do the Crest fork anymore and they may not support it. Therefore, you can't really get parts for this fork. That could happen. I'm not saying it will, but it might. So the handlebars, the cockpit, all those components are nothing to write home about. It's the contact trail stuff. It's pretty nice. It's nothing amazing, but it's not low-end junk either. It does come with a dropper post on it. It is the contact switch. And one of the best things about this bike, in my humble opinion, is it is coming full Shimano Deore 12-speed. So the cassette is a 1050. It is coming with a Shimano Deore shifter, rear derailleur, and cassette, which is super nice. So it's full Deore in that respect. You take a little hit with the crank. It is a Praxis. I've had no real problems out of Praxis, but they're by no means super nice. The spindle on those things they're tiny. The spindle's very tiny. That's really the biggest gripe. As far as them lasting a while, I've seen them go through some crap and still come out the other side just fine. It is a heavy crank. It's probably the only part of this group on this specific build I would knock. If you're gonna take a hit somewhere, a crank's a good place to take a hit, especially at this price point. $1,300 for this bike's pretty good. It is also coming with the 2-piston Tektro brakes. These are the TKD 143s. They're Tektro. They're an OEM style brake. They get the job done. They are a mineral oil brake. I've had really no problems too much out of these, but when you do have a problem out of them, they can be a pain to work on, so keep that in mind. The rims are the Giant All Mountain, is what I'm going to assume AM stands for, 29er wheel set, tubeless, ready right out of the box. All you have to do is squirt the stands in that Giant provides, and you are set up tubeless and you are ready to go. The tires on this puppy are the Maxxis DHF on the front and a Maxxis Aggressor on the rear. Both are in 2.5s. Pretty nice setup. I wouldn't particularly change it, especially if this is like your first nicer bike. Those are good tires to kind of get your feet wet with. It is also through axle front and rear, thank God. It's a pretty nice build for a $1,300 bike. The Shimano Dior stuff has been super nice, the new 12 speed. I prefer it heavily over the entry-level SRAM componentry. Let me pull up Giant's website and let's go through both of these bikes, see what they have and why one is $350 more than the other, and is it even worth your time to look at the one unless you really like the paint job. Not knocking anybody for spending more money because a bike looks good. All right, here we go, guys. So we have the Fathom 29-1 in 2021 and the Fathom 29-2 2021. $1,650 for one, $1,300 for the other, so $350. What do you get for both of these? Same exact frame between the two, same exact fork, so same dropper post, same saddle, stem, handlebar. So really where you're gonna get your changes at. I do love when you do these comparisons, Giant just highlights everything that is different. If you don't know how to do this, when you go onto Giant's website, there's gonna be a compare, a little button right underneath the bike that you're looking at. You just hit that, hit the other bike that you wanna look at, and it'll populate both of them like you see here. Super cool. So what is different? Let's talk about the group. So basically you're getting a full SX Eagle group set versus the Shimano Dior, with the exception of the NX rear derailleur. If I'm gonna be completely honest here, I think that NX rear derailleur is maybe closer to Dior than anything. That Dior just works, and it works great. I mean, I had no problem out of the Dior, but the SX stuff, I bet you guys have heard me gripe way too much about that. And if you hadn't, you just gotta know I don't care for SX. SX has really been troublesome, to say the least. Once you have that on your bike for a few months, I think it's the spring tension and all the plastic that they use on that rear derailleur that it just, you can get it into the easiest gear on the bike, that big 50-tooth cog, and it won't come out of it because the spring, even after you have it adjusted correctly, per SRAM's guidelines, it just won't come out of it. And you can give it a little love tap on the back, plop it right out. And this is only after having the bike for less than 6 months. I have done everything to try to mitigate this, you know, recabled bikes, lubed everything. I mean, I'm not gonna gripe too much. I think the Dior is better than the SX, even though you get an NX Eagle rear derailleur. That's not a big selling point to me. So I would tip 1 point over to the less expensive bike, honestly, the 2. Now let's talk about brakes. So the brakes on this bad boy for the 1 are actually coming with MT420s. They are 4-piston brakes on the front, but it's got a 2-piston rear brake, and they're Shimano. So they're nice brakes. I'm not gonna lie. They're gonna work great, especially since you're getting a 4-piston front brake, but the other bike is coming with Tektros. They're still hydraulic, and to me, at the end of the day, if you keep either one of these bikes for more than a year and you wanna start upgrading stuff, you're probably gonna wanna upgrade the brakes no matter which bike you go with, especially with the Fathom 1 only having a 2-piston on the rear. Do I think the Shimano brakes are better than the Tektros? Yes. Do I think that is a selling point? No. I think that is a wash because, like I said, at the end of you having this bike for over a year, if you want to start doing upgrades, you're going to be in the same boat with either bike, and you're probably going to want to upgrade the brakes as one of your first items. So you are getting a SRAM SX Eagle Dub crankset versus the Praxis. There again, I think this falls in line with the same thing with the brakes. So both of these are entry-level cranksets. There's no way around that. Like, one is dub, the SRAM SX Eagle is dub. So basically, if you wanted to upgrade after a year your crank, because both of those cranks, in my opinion, are not very amazing by any means, it'll be a little bit easier to upgrade on the SRAM SX Eagle crankset because you can just buy a new crank, slap it in there because you got the dub spacing. That Praxis Cadet Boost 30 tooth. The spindle's very, very tiny, and you're probably gonna have to buy a new bottom bracket as well. But bottom brackets are like, they're cheap. They're $50 or less for a bottom bracket. I think when you're comparing the two cranks, just like the brakes, it's a wash for me. I wouldn't necessarily pick a bike because it's got a SX Eagle crankset over a Praxis crankset. That's not a big selling point to me. All right, so let's move on to something even more interesting. The rear hub on the Giant is a Giant Performance Tracker hub. So it is Giant's proprietary hub. Giant does make a lot of the components for DT Swiss, and their wheels have been pretty decent, not gonna knock them too much. The Shimano hub comes on the cheaper bike because it is Dior 12-speed and it is micro spline. So it is already, in my opinion, a nicer hub. The bearings may not be as nice. I'm not gonna say that I've torn either one of these bikes completely apart yet because they are so new, but it's already micro spline. I think that is also a give to the less expensive bike. And then the only other difference is it says the tires are different. EXO, EXO TR, EXO TR, foldable, tubeless, 29 wide trail. All right, maybe you guys aren't as blind as me. I can't see a difference even though it has it highlighted between the two tires. Either way, I wouldn't pick different tires as why I would pick one bike over the other. So this lovely bicycle comes in at a whopping 29 pounds, 11 ounces. This equates to like 13.5 or 13.46, I think is what Google told me, kilograms. So this is going to be a little bit arbitrary, but I don't have access to a Fathom 29.1 because they all sold. And I have no idea when the next one is gonna come in. Normally I would just wait till I had both bicycles in my possession and I could do an actual side-by-side comparison. That is not quite possible right now, so if you wanna compare weights, I do have the weight to the 27.5 Fathom one, which is the exact same build, like I said earlier, but the wheel size is different. And that bike weighed in around 28.5 pounds. With that being said, it's a 27.5. 27.5 is usually a half a pound lighter than 29, in some cases even more than that. I'm not gonna examine it too closely, but at least you have both to kind of compare, I guess. I would say probably weight difference between the two, looking at the componentry on both of them, is gonna be around half a pound. That's a good assumption. Honestly, guys, if it was me, save your money, buy the less expensive bike. The only reason, in my opinion, for you to truly get a Fathom 1 is one, and this is a big one, it's the only bike that's currently in stock in your region. That's a huge selling point to me. If a bike is in stock, you better look at it if you're looking at any bike. Reason two is because you like the paint job. But as far as the, is the price difference actually there? Yeah, you know, some of this stuff is definitely gonna cost more. I know the brakes are gonna cost more, but is like the value there? In my opinion, the value is not $350 worth between these two bikes. Either way, no matter which one you do go with, you're gonna like it. It's a Fathom. These bikes have been getting phenomenal reviews. I can't say anything negative about the bike itself and how the bike handles, but when you're comparing these two together, the Fathom 1 and the Fathom 2, I gotta tip the scale over to that Fathom 2. It's definitely got a higher value than the Fathom 1 in my opinion. I hope that helps somebody out there. I do apologize for not getting the Fathom 2 video out to you guys quicker, as I honestly just did not know that I hadn't done one yet. It has been a busy year, and I thank every one of you guys for supporting me. I've been trying to leave the updates to the end of the video, and today's video I really don't have a lot of updates. We are going into the 2021 mountain biking season. I'm super excited for the races to commence. It's about all that I have for you guys. Thank you for sticking around with me. Make sure that you like and subscribe, and I love you all. See you later. Bye-bye.